Good evening. I'm recording this in the evening, so here we go. This is a continuation of culturally responsive teaching, but I'm going to cover just some things as a review, and then I've added some more information to this slide. So hopefully you are doing well and you find this useful. This first slide, culturally responsive teaching, connecting students' voice and choice to the lessons that we teach. We're teaching students, not just curriculum, so cultural competence should equal professional competence, especially with students who don't share our background or level of privilege. So we all come with different labels throughout the day. You might be teacher, mom, parapro, um, sister, friend. And sometimes we have labels that aren't ways of looking at us in a favorable way. So I wanted to show you a video just to kind of think about the labels that we carry. Okay, so I chose that video because just like we have different labels that we place on ourselves, or sometimes other people place on us, it's important to remember that our students sometimes come to us with labels on them. And wouldn't it be amazing if we could take some of the labels our students carry just by making them feel a sense of belonging and help them feel loved in your classroom? And then this next video, in talking about culturally responsive teaching, I felt it was really important to show why it's important that kids see themselves in the classroom or see a representation of themselves in the media. And so this little video is a short one that is about Encanto, the new Disney film.
O quê? É você? Olha pra mamãe, deixa eu ver se é você. Eu cresci, mamãe. Você cresceu aonde?
No translation necessary. 2-year-old Manu was blown away that she looked just like young Mirabelle in the Disney movie Encanto. Now, Manu lives in Brazil, so she speaks Portuguese, but she does start off that video saying, "It's me, Mommy." And then once Mirabelle ages a bit, Manu said, "I grew up, Mommy." So amazing. Now, Stephanie Beatrice, who voiced Mirabelle in the movie, commented on the Instagram post with some stars and the heart eyes emoji. I'm feeling this, Stephanie. Now, this is after 2-year-old Kenzo noticed a striking resemblance between him and Antonio in the movie. Kenzo and his parents on Good Morning America a couple weeks ago.
I remember we first seen him like turn back and look at us, and we were like, whoa, it just took us aback. And I said, does he notice that this looks like him? And just to see his reaction afterwards as he sat down on the floor and just tuned in, as you can see in that video, and he just also clapped. And that photo you saw where he's standing next to the character Antonio, it was just extremely like off guard, like we caught it and we captured that moment, and it was amazing.
It does mean the world to me because I do believe that there is power in representation, and it does empower young Black and brown children.
It's these simple little things that really make a difference. That's why representation matters. And I know there's some people, white people, that think, "Oh, who cares? It doesn't matter. They're all going to grow up fine." It is the thing to be seen and to see yourself on a screen. I mean, I can only relate to a certain extent because obviously I used to see white characters all the time when I was growing up, but I didn't see gay characters. And even as a teenager, I can't remember exactly what age I was when Will and Grace premiered. Would have been probably like teenager, 15 or so. And yeah, I thought, I can't be gay because I'm not like either one of those characters. Because that was really the first mainstream representation of gay people that we really saw on a weekly basis, like in a TV show. I thought I can't be gay because I'm not like either one of those two. Of course, yeah, now the universe has been expanded in terms of gay representation. So yes, it does matter to see yourself on screen. It helps you be okay with yourself. So yeah, what do you think of these stories of these kids seeing themselves in the Encanto?
Okay. So let me exit that one. So again, it's so important for our students to see themselves because typically growing up, so many of the characters that we saw on film, in TV shows that we watched, were fashioned after white actors and people. And now we are seeing more and more representation of the, as they said in here, gay characters. We're seeing Black and brown characters. Students are seeing themselves throughout the media, which is important. And just the joy that the kids see when they think that somebody looks like them makes my heart happy. So I just wanted to show you that as we continue into our equity and being culturally responsive and inclusive for all students. And in particular, these series really focus on your multilingual learners in your classes because that is the part of the parapro training that you or the certificate that you are earning through these trainings this year is the ELL portion. Okay, there will be a quiz after watching the videos that are to come and reading the article and reading the slides included in the training. You will have a short quiz. You may take notes as you read the article and watch the videos and scroll through the presentation. Culturally inclusive pedagogy. Cultural competence, the will and the ability to form authentic and effective relationships across differences. And culturally responsive teaching, it's teaching and leading in such a way that more of your students across more of their differencing achieve at a high level and engage at a deeper level more of the time without giving up who they are. And some principles of culturally responsive teaching, as outlined by Gary R. Howard, an educator. One, students are affirmed in their cultural connections. Teachers are personally inviting. The classroom is physically and culturally inviting. Students are reinforced for academic development. Instructional changes are made to accommodate differences. The classroom is managed with a firm, consistent, loving control, and interactions stress collectivity as well as individuality. Okay. So the next is an article, How to Get Started with Culturally Responsive Teaching. You can try to control click on this link, or you can copy the URL and put it into your address bar and go to the article. You will read that article. And the next, here are some videos about culturally responsive teaching. First one's creating a responsive classroom. If control click does not work for you in the PowerPoint, I have put the URL. So again, you will copy the URL and put it up in your search bar or your address bar.
I want you to erase all knowledge of yourself, your race, gender, favorite food, which Real Housewives franchise you prefer. Leave all of your interests and experience at the door. Now, traditionally, school is set up assuming students can do this when they step into the classroom. Not only is it unrealistic, it's unfair. Education is the greatest human equalizer, and in a deeply divided society, education may be one of the few forms of alleviation. But if we're unintentionally offering instruction through a limited scope, we're already limiting that potential and our students. We're often so focused on compliance, we don't examine elements that are actually connected to achievement, like cultural competence. When a lesson is relevant, the student becomes a learner. Their interests are sparked and their brains ignite. And that is how we close the achievement gap. Include learners in their own learning. Groundbreaking stuff, right? As demographics shift and access to technology increases, we have to develop relevant and responsive instruction, and educational technology gives us an abundance of opportunities to do just that. Culturally responsive teaching focuses on students' cultural knowledge and frames of reference. So if we're going to meet the needs of our students and communities, we have to know who they are. Open the lines of communication. Use Google Voice to share a phone number. Even if someone leaves a message in a language you're not familiar with, you can plug the transcript of that text into Google Translate. Maybe they're not quite comfortable with communicating with school officials. Have an ongoing Google form where anyone can send info, ask questions, or provide suggestions anonymously. We can further strengthen relationships and connections with families by utilizing digital communication they're comfortable with, like using YouTube Live to virtually bring families into the school for special events or just to showcase learning. And just like we create inviting classrooms, we need to create inviting digital learning environments. On our websites, include text-to-speech and translation tools, provide accessible information through multiple means, like interactive images with ThingLink. In the classroom, integrate high-quality digital content into instruction. Take virtual field trips, create interactive learning opportunities with AR and VR that both engage and serve a purpose. Let students guide their own journey, both into learning and around the world, because both are theirs. Speaking of theirs, build digital vocabularies. I'm basically trilingual, as I'm fluent in both emoji and GIF, or GIF if you say the word wrong, and so are our students. Communicating in ways they easily understand makes our messages clearer and more personal. Speaking of personal, use technology to personalize learning. Develop and organize coherent and relevant activities and projects that build upon students' cultural backgrounds and life experiences. Promote student voice and choice. Let them decide how to show what they know with or without a device. Enable students to communicate and collaborate with audiences, including peers and experts, locally and around the country and world, using tools like Google Hangouts, ePals, and Skype. Honor individualism while facilitating collaboration, especially among diverse groups, using tools like Jamboard or Padlet. Set and communicate high expectations custom to each student and encourage them to take ownership of their performance. Show them how to access grades digitally. Explain how data works, but make them more than a number, because a teacher's effectiveness is not the growth of a score, but the growth of a student. Provide meaningful feedback, like personalized videos in Screencastify, comment threads in G Suite. Use a collaborative doc to serve as a journal where the students can safely document and reflect, and you can personally support and guide their growth. In addition to all of this, there's one specific place we all need to start, and that's within ourselves. Reflect on what we know and what we don't know. Examine our own bias and judgment and explore where there's room to learn. Have tough conversations with ourselves and others. Growth can't happen if we're stagnant. For me, for example, I wasn't entirely sure of where hip hop fit into school, besides the usual write a rap about blank or rap Shakespeare, but I knew the kids loved it. And who can deny hip hop's longevity and reach? I mean, have you heard of a Broadway show called Hamilton? So instead of avoiding it or ignoring it, let's use its power to empower. Our students' cultures, interests, and backgrounds can no longer be left out of learning. When we know better, we do better, and we have the power and the potential to involve and empower all learners. So let's do it. Thank you.
Okay. So that is that one. And we will go back to the next one. I've given you a few different 4-minute videos, and I purposely chosen some differing ideas. Hers mainly centered around using technology in the classroom, which many of you are comfortable doing. So thinking about ways to make those learning experiences inclusive for your students. Here is another one: what culturally responsive teaching looks like. And this is from the viewpoint of a Native American educator.
We're not just talking about teaching about American Indians, especially for Native students. You know, there are indigenous methodologies of educating young people around the world, and how important those were, and what can we learn from those that might be valuable to reincorporate, you know, back into the education system paradigm really that we have now. And that's especially important for Native communities themselves. We're working towards greater sovereignty and greater self-determination, and education is a major vehicle towards that end. Culturally responsive teaching is really about what we teach and how we teach diverse populations. It's a combination of pedagogy, curriculum, actual instructional delivery, the attitudes and beliefs, I think, that we bring to the classroom. Really, it's about a responsibility to know, understand, respect the various backgrounds, cultural heritage, whatever it is students bring to the classroom, to have an awareness of that and to utilize students' prior knowledge, which comes from their families and their homes and their communities, and in my case, even tribes, and building off of that. I think culturally responsive teaching can be most clearly seen in the relationships that teachers have with their students. I think it's also demonstrated in how we teach, the instructional strategies that we employ in the classroom, as well as, you know, what we teach, the material, how inclusive are our textbooks and the additional materials, our lesson plans that we bring to students every day. When you have a teacher that shows you respect, builds relationships, works at understanding, our communities and our cultures and our identities, that can really create a circumstance where children will go anywhere and imagine new possibilities and problem solve and really become, the kind of young people that we need and we want in our communities. One thing that's very important to me when working with teachers is to understand and reflect on the sort of cultural space, the cultural identity that you bring to the classroom and how that presents itself, how that is really what children see and hear and interact with on a daily basis. And without being culturally responsive, you're never presenting anything else in that space for children that desperately want to have a sense of belonging. They want to feel empowered. They want to feel as though they're valued and respected in their classrooms and in their schools. And it isn't always easy, and it's not always comfortable. You have to stretch and grow and be willing to sometimes get things wrong and ask questions. When you see that sort of inclusive environment, you know it. You just know it right off the bat by the ways the students and teachers are interacting. It just becomes so enlivened, and that's just always the best spaces to see.
Okay. And I like how she said sometimes to grow, you have to be a little uncomfortable. And I remember saying that in one of our trainings that with you, in order to grow, you've got and stretch yourself, you've got to feel a little uncomfortable sometimes. Okay, and this last one is becoming a culturally responsive teacher. Just
Our
another.
veteran staff are just a year in the building, and then our new staff are fresh out of college. And I guess they thought they were prepared to deal with a diverse population. And then they got here and met the kids, and they're not.
As you've said before with your background, I came from a very strong, all white Catholic schools background. And in my first 5 years of teaching were in the Catholic schools as well, all white. And then when I came into the public schools, it was a world of difference for them and for me. And I had to learn how to relate to a lot of my children.
Can you know me and can you know what I see? What I see? What I see? Yeah.
Welcome to this course on becoming a culturally responsive teacher. This class is going to take us into that journey, very personal journey around what it means, first of all, to be culturally competent on that personal journey, and then the professional journey of what it means to be a culturally responsive teacher in our classroom. Sometimes when we talk about diversity, people just automatically think race, right? That's key. Race is key. We're going to talk a lot about race here. But we need to realize that there's no child in your classroom or mine who doesn't come with a whole set of differences. I think one of the most powerful strategies that we have is that young people, the students that we work with, that they have a sense that this teacher in this classroom, at this moment of my life, believes in me, sees me, respects me. So this is the doorway that I think culturally responsive teachers can create through belief, and then the primary vehicle for that is through relationship.
The biggest part of anything you do as a new teacher is going to be about building relationships at the beginning, because you can't teach anybody if you haven't built the relationships in the classroom. Climate is not warm, the kids don't feel safe, and the kids don't feel like a unit.
What do you think happens when kids feel pressure not to be who they are in school? What happens to their academic energy?
It goes down.
So this is sort of the formula that we're building here, that the cultural competence of the adults is intimately connected to achievement.
So when we talk about culturally responsive teaching, when we talk about cultural competence, what we're talking about developing teachers to be able to have strategies to engage students in instruction.
What does it actually look like in the classroom? And for that, we're going to shift our attention to what I call the 7 principles of culturally responsive teaching.
It's building the relationship with them the minute they walk in the door, and checking on them, making sure they're okay, and listening to the little one talk about her boo-boo that she had on her elbow, and just listening to their stories, and then making sure they all feel safe and know that it's a safe environment for them to get started. Good morning, Jennifer. I got blueberries. Oh, how beautiful. I love them.
I made a conscious effort to go around my room and like the things that I have decorating my room and whatnot. Let's be a little bit more representative. So I have 27 different countries to choose from that I can plaster my walls with. But then I also involve the kids' personal cultures too. I have graduation photos, prom pictures.
At the beginning of the year, I allowed them to come up with the rules of engagement. That's what we call it. Okay, we have rules of engagement.
And they emerge from them.
They help manage that. Okay, what works best? What looks best in group work?
Yes.
As a teacher, as your teacher, what do you need? What do you want from me?
I think we as teachers get wrapped up into what I have to teach them, what standard I have to give to them. This workshop makes you look at what your students have to teach you.
I think what Gary Howard brings is the fact that he is a reflection of the majority of teachers, and that they're not being preached at. They're being talked to about looking at teaching and culturally responsive teaching from a different perspective.
My mindset totally changed, and how I could use that diversity to my advantage, and use it to enrich the learning that was going on in my classroom and my school.
I'm from the children who fight and hate. I'm from sagging pants with hustlers filling them. I'm from struggle to wealth. I'm from where everything costs. I am happiness. I am success. I am Renee.
Okay. So I have some questions here that if you were taking notes, you could write down your answers and keep these. Or if you just want to think about it, what resonates with you after watching the videos? What challenges you, if anything challenges you? And what is new thinking for you as you think about being culturally responsive in your classroom and including your students' voice and choice and who they are and what they bring to your classroom? And as I think I've told you before, every day is a new day for learning for me. Yes, I'm a teacher. Yes, I'm a coach. But I also am a learner, and I always have my eyes open to learn something from those adults who I talk with and work with on a daily basis, who I'm on the same team with. And I learn from students every day and ask questions of things that I don't understand or that I need answers to. But this next slide leads us to thinking about equity. In pursuit of equity, we pursue equity to ensure that the students who are treated the least well by society have the same opportunities to learn and succeed as students born into the world with more resources, power, and status. Dr. Erica Hernandez Scott, PESB, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Program Manager. I know that because the pandemic has been in the forefront for 2 years, there was shown many inequities for students who didn't have the same resources as others when it came to internet. And so I know our district tried really hard to get hotspots, but again, we had so many students that maybe couldn't log in and do their work. So I know that as educators, we are trying to level the playing field so that we can have equitable education. But we're all learning every day. Okay. All right. So this slide shows the differences between equity and equality. Just some examples. I won't read it all right now, but you may want to read them all. Equity refers to fairness, justice, and impartiality. Equality refers to equal sharing and division, keeping everyone at the same level. Equity definition is fairness and justice. Equality is definition is sameness. Now, these two words people mix up all the time, equity and equality, but they are not the same. Equity justifies things on the basis of quality, and equality justifies the things on the basis of quantity. Okay, and I really like this one down here. People are treated fairly but differently in equity, but in equality, people are treated the same way, but maybe unfairly, because maybe keeping them at that equal, keeping two students totally equal assignments, well, maybe this student over here who might be a multilingual student needs that assignment scaffolded for them so they are able to access the content. So yes, we want them to have access, but we may have to, in order to have equity, we may have to scaffold for them. So if you just want to read through the rest of those, it is a good graphic. Okay. So some things to consider in the classroom. It's important to remember that culturally responsive teaching is an assets-based approach to teaching and aids in creating an equitable classroom for all learners. Okay, we want to look at what are the things that students know and that they're bringing to the class. Even if you have a brand new student, we know that they're coming with learning and background that are assets to your class, and you just need to ask questions and dive into the funds of knowledge that they bring. When we learn about another's culture, whether it's in another country or just in the neighborhood down the street, we create positive learning environments. Within positive, inclusive classroom, educators should welcome relationships built on dialogue of trust and respect. So being able to talk to your students and ask questions of each other and come at a place of respect when you're asking those questions. And consider ethnicity, language, ability, gender identity, and socioeconomic experiences. Watch out for using materials that perpetuate stereotypes or insulting depictions of diverse communities. And I just want to highlight this. Sometimes we have stereotypes that we have grown up learning about certain cultures. Maybe we think all of this culture likes this certain food, or all of this culture celebrates this holiday. Well, we don't know that for sure, right? Those are just sometimes things that we have grown up with, and we have these preconceived ideas. But until we form relationships with our students and ask questions, those are going to continue being stereotypes, and sometimes they're insulting. So we want to be sure that we really find out who our students are. And this video I'm going to show you next depicts someone who their intent has a very different impact than what they were expecting. And so while you're watching this video, ask yourself, what do you think the intent was, and what was the impact on the female jogger? And how might this scenario play out in the classroom?
Hi there.
Hi.
Nice day, huh?
Yeah, finally, right?
Where are you from? Your English is perfect.
San Diego. We speak English there.
Oh, no. Where are you from?
Well, I was born in Orange County, but I never actually lived there.
I mean before that.
Before I was born.
Yeah, like, well, where are your people from?
Well, my great-grandma was from Seoul.
Korean. I knew it. I was like, she's either Japanese or Korean, but I was leaning more towards Korean.
Amazing.
Yeah, Hamshasina. There's a really good teriyaki barbecue place near my apartment. So I actually really like kimchi.
Cool. What about you? Where are you from?
San Francisco.
But where are you from?
No, I'm just American.
Really? You're Native American?
No, just regular American. Oh, well, I guess my grandparents are from England.
Oh, well. Hello, Governor! What's all this then? Top of the morning to you. Let's go sporty. Double, toil and trouble. Mind the gap, beware Jack the Ripper. Bloody hell! Hip hip, cheerio! I think your people's fish and chips are amazing.
You're weird.
Really? I'm weird? Must be a Korean thing.
So his intent wasn't to insult her. However, the way he asked the question ended up causing her to feel insulted. And then what she gave back, because when he says, "Oh, I'm just American," um, is it's comical, but yet it just goes to show, even in this sort of way that's exaggerated, that these kind of conversations happen all the time. And we just need to be sure that if we are asking questions, we think about the way we ask questions and we come at it in a respectful way. So, again, ask questions, but do so with respect and a willingness to learn a different perspective. Preconceived ideas are not always a student's story. And if you'll remember a couple of trainings back, it's been a while, but I showed you the video of the danger of, I think it was the danger of one story or from one perspective. We don't always get the whole picture. So we just need to ask questions and be willing to learn and be willing to hear what the answer is. Remember the intent and impact of what you're asking, and ask questions that continue to build the relationship with your students and their families. If you question somebody's cultural background, because you're not sure of what holidays they celebrate, or what types of foods they eat. Or I know I asked somebody one day, and it was out of respect because I didn't know, and I was curious as to why many of our students who are multilingual, who have a Mexican background, have two last names. And so I asked one of my friends, I said, I'm asking this because I don't know and out of respect. And then the answer was, well, it differs. Sometimes it's the mom's last name and then the husband's last name because the mom keeps her name. Other times it could be that our students have three last names because mom had two last names before she got married and she didn't want to let go of those names. And then she added her husband's name as well. So the dialogue that I had, totally respectful, and I was willing to hear the answer because I was very curious about why our students had multiple names. So just something as simple as that. When we ask, we just need to be sure that we are asking in a way that is respectful, and that the person we're asking is ready to have that dialogue as well. So I hope that all of the videos will open for you for this training. You will have a quiz. If you've watched the videos, if you've read the article, you will do great. And I hope you have an amazing day.